Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing the World Economic Forum and what looks to me to be their attempt to impose this so-called digital wallet, these totalitarian tokens whereby all of our financial activities can be surveilled here in Thailand. Basically what we're talking about is what seems to be their plan to try to do this. So where am I getting this from? Well, I thought of making this video after reading a recent article from the Bangkok Post, bangkokpost.com. Article is titled, PM gives e-wallet start date. And the first thing, well, hold on, let me quote directly. Registration for the 10,000 baht digital wallet handout will kick off on August 1, according to Prime Minister Totalitarianism. First big question is, I've been gone for a couple of weeks, and I was keeping track of this from a distance. Where has the authority been granted to expend all of this public money? Was there a vote in Parliament on this that I missed? And I'm happy to stand corrected. Please tell me in the comments, at what point was due process undertaken to expend all of this money, and more importantly, to indebt the nation for all of this money? I would really like to see that, because just the Prime Minister coming out and saying this is what we're going to do, I'm sorry, that's, to paraphrase the Big Lebowski, this is not Nam, this is bowling, there are rules. Like, you don't just get to say we're going to expend hundreds of billions of baht in public funds without some form of legislative due process. Quoting further, Deputy Finance Minister Julapon Amonwiwad, who chairs a subcommittee working on the details of the handout, and that's another one, it's a handout. Thais don't need a handout. I'm just tired of this. And it's also based on this pretext that we're in some kind of massive economic downturn, which I've failed to see. Now, I know that there are those out there that are predicting problems, especially in the export sector. But as we've discussed in other videos, Q1 was booming. Tourism was up. Consumer spending was up nearly 10%. I mean, this is compared to the rest of the world, which is languishing. Again, I fail to see where, the entire narrative surrounding the need for this digital wallet, this so-called, there's an economic problem, we need to solve it, let's do this digital wallet. First off, where were all these people during COVID when you shut down our economy? Secondly, this isn't the answer. Going into debt for a bunch of so-called money that can be turned on and off, they can tell you how it can be spent, and they can tell you where it can be spent, that's just a bum steer all around. That's the worst of both worlds. The nation has to go into tons of debt for something that they can't really use the way that you think of using money for. What is that? What is that plan? That seems nonsensical to me. In any event, quoting further, said the main committee agreed with the proposal not to borrow from the Bank for Agriculture and Agricultural Cooperatives. Okay, so then where's the money coming from? Quoting further, he said the committee also agreed with the proposed scaling down of the program from 500 billion baht to 450 billion baht. Well, good. Wow, okay. So it's not a full 2 orders of magnitude more liquidity than already exists. It's 1.85 orders of magnitude more liquidity than already exists. Quoting further, adding that despite this change, it would have a positive impact on the economy. Again, I fail to really see how. We've gone over this in multiple prior videos. This isn't money. It's a digital token that they can decide where, when, and how you spend it, and for how long you can use it. And they give a whole myriad of stuff that it can't be used on. So really, the only people that are going to heavily benefit from this are like low-level retail sector. And I'm starting to think, is this kind of being tailored down to just target a specific subset of the business community so they profit enormously, by the way, at the expense of the nation as a whole, because we're all going to have to pay this back because we're going into debt for it, or they're using budget funds that will then have to go into debt further to use those budget funds that they've used on the things that were pre-allocated, that those funds were already allocated for. We've still got to build roads and bridges. Just because they use budget money that once was earmarked for roads and bridges and now give it out in this digital wallet scheme so-called, you're still going to have to go into debt to pay those roads and bridges then. So ultimately somebody has to pay for this. And again, they never seem willing to explain how or why or where they're getting this money from, other than it looks to me like the nation is going to go into an inordinate amount of debt to create something that we wouldn't call money, or never heretofore have we ever called money. Quoting further, Mr. Juliporn said that funding for the project would come from two sources: the 2024 fiscal budget, 165 billion baht, and the 2025 fiscal budget, 258 billion baht. So the whole budget for the whole country is going to this? And then they're saying, well, we're not going to have to go into debt for it? Well, absolutely we're going to have to go into some kind of debt, because we got to pay for the normal cost of doing government business. What are you talking about here? Now, meanwhile, I know that there are those who would argue that, well, you're being hyperbolic by bringing up the World Economic Forum. Am I? I've done the videos before where we didn't see, for the entirety of the prior government, roughly 12 years, nobody went to the WEF. Nobody went to the World Economic Forum. I don't know if they were persona non grata there, whatever, but they didn't go. And by the way, that's to their credit. Whatever you want to say about the prior government, they weren't hanging out with these people. That said, we get this new government. Prime Minister's already been there. Other members of the cabinet have already been to this World Economic Forum. I question whether or not some people outside of the government have been hanging around this body and have gotten on board the Klaus Schwab Brother Loves Travel and Salvation Show train, or whatever it is that this thing is. But at the end of the day, yeah, members of the government have overtly been to this meeting. And this is a meeting of people that you need to be very, very careful of. I would call them something akin to what was once described as internationalists, or in the vein of what was once called the Comintern, the Communist International. These folks remind me a lot of the old school international Bolsheviks. Meanwhile, their purported claim, their purported raison d'etre is for the being further proponents of the public-private partnership model of governance, not government. I always love that. They always use governance, whatever that means. And people, again, so on the one level, they have all these characteristics of international Bolshevism. Meanwhile, public-private partnership, what's the definition of fascism? As Mussolini said, it's the marriage of state and corporate power. It looks to me like this WEF, this World Economic Forum, are simply the evangelists of the worst of all worlds in terms of government of a society. They're for everything you don't want, basically totalitarianism. That's how I look at it. That said, going over here to the WE Forum, so weforum.org, so that's the WEF Forum, World Economic Forum, under how universal wallets can help businesses unleash the full potential of digital identity. Bear that in mind. This isn't about money. It's digital identity. Did anybody in Thailand, one, vote for any of this orders of magnitude more liquidity that we're all going to go into debt for in order to have a digital identity system imposed upon us? Is that what we want? And quoting directly, notably, under such schemes, it's possible to share only pieces of identity as needed. For example, a person can use a mobile driver's license in California to verify their age without sharing other details of their identity. Health insurance cards, airplane boarding passes, city transportation cards, and COVID-19 vaccination records can all also be stored in a smartphone mobile wallet. Is this what we want, Thailand? For the government to create a digital system of surveillance on us where they have all of our identity documents, and then on top of it, they get to fully surveil all of our financial transactions? Moreover, is this what we want, to spend 2 orders of magnitude more liquidity than currently exists in the banking system right now that we go into debt for in order to create? Is that what we want? Because I didn't see anybody who signed on for that during the last campaign. I mean, yeah, sure, everybody's going to get on board with the notion of free money, which there's no such thing as that either. I do get that. We all like the notion of, hey, we get some free money. But this is worse than free money. This isn't even free money because it's not money, as we've discussed before. They can tell you where you spend it. They can tell you what you spend it on. How is that cash? Well, it's not. At the end of the day, cash is a great medium because you can spend it on what you want and you can stay private when you do it. That's not what's being advocated here. What's being advocated here is 2 orders of magnitude more liquidity than currently exists in the banking system that the country has to go on the hook on, meaning that the people of Thailand are going to have to pay back that money in terms of, in the longer term sense, in terms of higher taxes, to get what? At the end of the day, to get tokens that the government can then use to fully surveil them at all times. Is this what we want? Does Thailand want to become the testing ground, the guinea pig, if you will, for these pie-in-the-sky notions from the World Economic Forum? I surely hope not.